What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Ani-mity, and welcome back to the beginner series, Made by a Beginner, where today I'm going to finally start showing you guys my process when it comes to making the animation that I did for my intro video to this series. Now, originally, I wanted to do this where I just took that video and kind of walked you guys step by step through what it is I did to make that original video. But I decided that instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys just from scratch. Like if you just opened up Photopea, if this is the first time you've ever seen Photopea, this is what I look at, this is what I generally do, and this is the process I go through when it comes to making the images that I do. So I wanted to kind of show you guys just completely, top to bottom, step by step, what it is that I do. It might not come out the exact same as the original one I did, but you know what? We're here as a learning process together. So let's get into it. We're going to start with making a new project. If you guys aren't familiar, Photopea is a great service that I've gotten used to using for a lot of my image editing needs. It's really, really nice. I mean, if you're looking for a free alternative to Photoshop and just something to quick and easy make the images you want to make, this is the service that I would personally recommend using. So we're going to start off here with making a brand new project. Now, you'll have some options here. You'll have the different kinds of screens you could use. I recommend going all the way to the end here and picking one of the larger image sizes just to give yourself a lot of space to work with for your image, and that way you have a lot more wiggle room if you want to look at it that way. So it gives you a screen here. Plus, this way you don't have to edit what you're looking at later. You kind of just go with a template. That said, the next thing you want to do is you're going to want to make a brand new layer, because this one, I find it's very hard to edit stuff when you're working with the basic layer, so I just end up deleting it. So now I have a completely blank canvas for me to start working with and start making my character. Now, one thing that I never liked in all the tutorials that I look into, or a lot of times when I'm having friends kind of tell me how I might want to go about art, but like, don't worry too much about how well it looks at first or how close you get. Kind of freehand it, you'll get a feel for it as you keep experimenting with it. I don't like that kind of advice personally. Like when it comes to art, I'm not a perfectionist, but at the same time, I'm very I want it to look good, and when it doesn't, that becomes very discouraging for me. So what I would recommend doing is, if you can find online a basic template. I found this one online. I was looking through some generic character models I could use, and this one looked good enough. Like this one, trying to figure out how to get my mic to be in a good place. There we go. So that doesn't work. So for the character template here, this is the one that I found online. I think it just looks good. It's good for what I want to do because it's very simple. And on top of that, I could use this to kind of go through my process easy enough. So, enlarge it to make it big enough to your size, so that way you can start working on stuff. I will be doing a lot of zooming in and out by just hitting the magnifying glass icon there to zoom in, and then using this hand icon to move around to get close to the parts of the body that I want to focus on. And that'll be the way that I kind of make a lot of the images that I wanted, the way I make a lot of the body. Because I'll tell you this, I don't do a lot of drawing for this process. What I do is I use very basic shapes to kind of cover up a lot of the stuff, and then try to warp and make it look as close as I possibly can to doing it. So first thing I do is I go to my the shapes. I have my hopefully my mouse is recording, but if not, you're gonna go down. So you have the magnifying glass, you have the hand, and then you usually have a shape, and you have a few options of the different shapes you can choose from. We're gonna choose the ellipse in this case, and then from there, we're going to start off, we don't want to get the neck quite yet. We just want to be able to cover the top-ish part of the face. Unfortunately, every time you do that, it's going to make a brand new layer. So now we've done that, we're going to go back up to the very top to click our mouse. Try to make sure that auto select is not on. I find that whenever I do that, it makes doing a lot of the stuff that I do a little bit harder to do. It just kind of auto collects through all the layers that I have. That's never fun because it just makes it annoying to do. So we're going to move this around a bit. Yeah, there we go. We're going to move this around a bit. We're going to enlarge a bit. We're going to try to make this so that way we're covering up as much of the top part of the face as we possibly can. Now, that might be a little hard to do. You do this, and that kind of covers some stuff, but to me, there's parts of this that kind of bother me. So what I would like to do is I hit the warp option, And because of that, I can play with my shape, I can manipulate it a little bit, and I can stretch some things around or like shorten some stuff. So that way it gets more, for lack of a better term, head shape. So now I kind of have like the full top part of the head covered. I'm going to go and name this layer the head, because it's going to be very important when you get to your editing processes, when you're getting to the animation stuff. You want to know what each of your layers is, so that way you know what it is you're working with. So the next, we're going to try to do the neck. Similar process. I'm going to go with a rectangle this time because I think that's an easier shape to make this kind of work. So we just want to get enough to cover the neck and this like lower head region space. Again, you don't have to be super precise with how you're doing this. I just like to be super precise because of the fact that it will annoy me otherwise, and then that'll discourage me from all the art that I want to do later. So again, we're going to warp a bit and try to like toy a bit just enough that we could fill in the space of the neck and try to make this look somewhat presentable, I guess is the term. You don't worry about how this is going to come out. Like, I do appreciate the whole, like, just enjoy the process aspect of a lot of the tutorials, but at the same time it's like I like when it looks like it kind of fit with what I have going on here. So this is going to be our neck. The other important thing you want to do is always make sure you're paying attention to what layers you have going where, because that's going to determine the way in which things overlay when you add things like skin tone, when you add things like when you add like different colors and shadings for a lot of your character's body, the aspects of the body as you go along. So you want to make sure like the neck, sometimes like the more awkward parts of the neck that I can't really work around the shape of, I try to like hide behind whatever body part I have up there. So I have the head, and then I have my neck. So now next, we're going to move on to the main body. So we're going to zoom out a little bit, just so that we can actually see what we're working with. And there are other ways you can go about your shapes and such, but usually I try to keep things to like the most basic shapes that I can to try to be able to make this as like easy-ish on myself as possible. So that way I'm not like, because again, it's just like I'm definitely the type where I would like nitpick if I don't get it within a certain size, or if I don't get it. Why is it not doing even close to what I wanted? Like, I don't want to enlarge. Stop it, sticky keys. Oh, that's why. So then, okay. So, yep. I always forget to hit the mouse when it comes to doing this. I forget the transformation control part because I'm like, oh, I could already start doing the editing stuff. Let me start getting to that. So I get ahead of myself often with that. But like before, we're just going to work with editing our shape a little bit, try to cover as much as possible. In this case, you also want to try to get some of the arms and give the shape here a little bit more of a curve, which you usually do by playing with there are these dots around the shape. You pull up on them and it lets you do this warp, kind of like you have a mesh kind of over it that's letting you do some of the work. So there we go. This covers most of our main body here. So that's going to be good. We're going to name that body. And then we're just going to keep up with this process. And just like try to see like what shapes do you see when it comes to a lot of stuff. And of course you can always make your edits and make your changes as you go along. Like here, I think if I was skilled enough, I would go with making more of a like ellipse to do this, but I kind of like using the rectangle shape. It's kind of more of like, it gives me more of a sleeve feel to it, which makes it look a little bit nicer for me, as far as I'm concerned. And again, with always, you can always, with all these shapes, you can always make little changes. You can give things a bit more definition. And again, that's the benefit of having the template, is the fact that if you're not entirely sure what you're doing because this is the first time you're doing it, like repetition is definitely key to this whole process, and doing it over and over and over again is part of it. When you don't really know what you're doing at the start, it's hard to kind of know what you're generally looking for. So that's why I recommend having a template, just because that way it's like you have something, a point of reference to compare to. So like if there's an anime, or if there's a style art or character that you want to try to replicate, I'd highly recommend getting a template for when you're starting out, because then you can kind of try to not copy the style, but emulate the style a little bit to try to make something of the sort. So here we have our arm. This always messes me up because I try to go like, oh, this is the left arm, but no, it's the right arm because that's the reverse and that kind of thing. It's the character's right, my left. So that's what messes me up, especially because one thing I also like to do, especially when it comes to the arms and the legs, because it's going to be kind of a similar-ish shape, what I like to do is I like to duplicate the layer. I'm going to name this our left arm. And I'm going to, if you hit the eye icon, it will hide the part you just drew over. So I'm going to hide the right arm. I'm going to go to my Edit tab and hit Flip horizontally, because by doing that, I can save myself that little bit of time and be able to make another arm a little bit quicker. Because like the arms are not too dissimilar from each other, which I think makes it look a little bit nicer, makes it a little bit easier for me to make my my edits and my changes. And again, we're gonna warp a bit so that way I can make any changes I feel like make the arm look a little bit nicer. But again, this is also just like a me and my kind of OCD thing of I just want it to look good by my standards at least. There we go. So now we have our two arms. And next, we'll move on to doing the legs. And same process here. Gonna try not to use the pop-up window for that because I find that just, again, it messes with my head when I try doing some stuff. You don't have to do the full leg in one swoop. In fact, I shouldn't be doing it this way. No, there we go. So you don't have to do it all in one swoop. I try to sometimes because that, again, it just makes my head feel better when I get the shapes kind of close-ish on the first try. So otherwise it just kind of annoys me. But yeah, so we're going to again use our warp tool, try to make these look leg-ish, I guess is the term. Let's see here. There we go. I'm just trying to fill in those outlines as much as we can. And there we go. I think that looks good. So again, we're going to do this like right thigh is what I'll call that. And again, we're going to duplicate our layer, hide our original. We'll try to edit, flip, so that we can move it over here. There we go, we have our left thigh now. And then we'll make our little edits and changes that we feel are necessary. That way it looks good. Okay. So now we're going to save that. A very important thing also, particularly if you're working off a computer that's not yours, or if you're working on a computer that's not necessarily the most reliable, I personally would recommend saving a lot, so that way you can always backtrack. That way you have the history thing here that lets you backtrack on decisions, but if your computer crashes, then you might lose everything you have here. So it's always good to save a backup copy of all your stuff, and I'll show you what I do for that in a bit. But there we go. So we have our two thighs. I'm going to try to edit the... So if you don't see the warp option here, what you want to do is you want to go to Edit, go to Transform, and then you'll have the warp option there that you can work with to try to get some things to look right. Otherwise, what I do is I just click on the shape, and then usually the Transform aspect lets me do some processes and lets me try to do some changes with that. Like, I'm looking at the body now, and I'm like, I don't like that I'm seeing that little bit of the original hip, but also, I mean, I think it looks fine. We're looking pretty good so far. So let's finish up here. We're going to go with making our leg. And we're going to edit. We're going to warp. Just try your hardest to make it fit within the lines of your thing. Like, just, I like this color in the lines thing just because it just makes me feel better about it when the art does or doesn't really work out the way I want it to. So we're going to make this our right foot. And same process, we're going to duplicate, hide, transform, and flip. So that way we can move that over to here. Don't really feel like I need to make any changes here, but we're going to make this our left foot. Make that reappear. And then we're almost done. Next thing we're going to do is just work on the hand. While we're at it, this is what we've done so far. Like here's it with the reference, here's it without. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know about you guys. I think that looks really, really good. So let's move in now onto the hand shape here. Now, for this one, I'm going to go with using the ellipse. There is another way you can go about doing this, but I think for now, just an ellipse will do it justice for what we're trying to do here. And again, we'll go for our warp. Try to just get like something resembling-ish the hand shape. And you kind of give it like this little like divot to give it the impression of there's a thumb or phalange here. So like, yeah, that looks, I mean, it looks not bad, I'll say that. So we're going to try to do this, again, just to cover what we can there. Yeah, so I think that's good. Look at the shape. What I might do is just try to like turn it a little bit. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, like I remember when I started, I would make like these like claw Lego hands. And I mean, they looked fine, but just something about them always just kind of like did bother me a little bit. But yeah, so there we go. That looks a bit more hand-like. This is going to be our right hand. And like definitely with the hands, I don't feel the need to try to do them again. Get that T. So we're going to use our hand tool so that way we can move over there, move to here, do our flip, and then there we go. So we're going to take that away just so the template layer that we have, just so we can look at it all. But there we go. We have ourselves a full character model. So this is just how I go about making like my basic character model. From there, you can do some things like if I say wanted to give my character like a shirt, I guess, I can go to this is also where it helps to have everything labeled. Go to my main body, and if you double click on it, you can go to where it says color overlay. Go to color overlay, and you can actually change the color. So if I want to give him like a red shirt, there we go. Now he's got a red like top and just has his arms kind of sticking through there. And I can always make changes to stuff here. That's why it's good to have the hands and the arms be separate, because then you can kind of give the character like sleeves and that kind of thing. But in this case, I am going to just go back to having the original thing there, just so we can end this. Did I lose my hand? There we go. Let's go back to having this way here. So now, there you go. Now you have a full character model done. And in the next video, I'll show you guys how I go about my animation process, how I go about making the individual frames, and how I go about making the basic animations like what I did for you guys for my intro video. But for now, that is how I do that. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you guys learned something. Hope that this was informative and that you guys got some ideas on how to go about making your own models here. It's a process. It definitely is a process with it, but as long as you're willing to trust in it, I think you'll be surprised with the results you come out with. So hopefully this is informative for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.